Hey, this is Judah from SceneForge Studio, and in this video I'm going to talk about the improvements and changes and bug fixes that are currently in version 0.1.10. Now there's actually a lot coming to this release, and first and foremost I want to talk about the fact that the mobile camera tracking app is now available for all iOS devices that support ARKit. So that includes basically most recent iPhones and iPads, and it works super cool. Again, as I mentioned previously, the Apple's ARKit tracking is significantly better than Google's AR Core, so hopefully you'll be seeing those improvements in the way your cameras track. It's really great, and it's available on the App Store for free. And it works exactly the same as the Android app. You just connect it by typing in the code, and you're all set. That is in preparation for the M1 Mac version that is coming hopefully next week. We'll see. But either way, the Android and iOS apps are both compatible with all versions on Windows or Mac. So aside from that, let's get into the software itself. Now, the most notable thing is that the post-processing effects have been improved significantly. So bloom is now much more realistic, and in the next release, there's actually going to be an option for anamorphic, or like the J.J. Abrams effect, where you can see vertical or horizontal streaks on the screen. It looks really great. That's coming in the next version. And additionally, if we go to shoot mode, we can see that the lens options are actually reduced by quite a bit. So we removed, for now, all lens distortion options. That's going to be added later on. So we can focus on basically replacing the post-processing system with another one that is just more widely compatible and works a little bit better. So you can see we still have motion blur. Sensor noise works a little bit different. It's a little more subtle, and you can adjust the pixel size through this slider. And then we have Vignette Strength. Now previously you might have noticed that it was very weak. So now this slider allows you to turn it up all the way to there. So you're probably going to want something like this, or if you're going for like a TV look, you can go like that. It just makes it, you have much more control over the vignette. So that's basically the lens options. Like I said, they're reduced, but more being added on slowly as we can improve those systems. Next is my favorite, and that is that depth of field and the focus system is significantly improved and is very different. Now the focus is less on realism. These settings are not as physically accurate as they were, but you can get much more creative and cool looking focus and depth of field effects that I think it's a worthwhile trade-off. So when paired with physical cameras, you can absolutely get them to match up, but these values are no longer attempting to one-to-one match a physical camera. What that means is now you can get effects that are much more, I guess creative is the word I'm going for. So you can adjust the aperture to get this really nice bokeh effect like that, which is something we did not have in the previous version. So it all works the same way with the scroll wheel and all that stuff, but you can just do so many more cool things that I think is super cool. So that is the depth of field. Now something that was also struggling with last time, the last video is kind of a rant about HDR. Now both cameras, virtual cameras and the scene camera, fully respond to HDR in exports and in the scene. Right now there's a weird bug in which the viewfinders are not showing it. That's being fixed in the next release, hopefully by the end of the day today. But everything is fully HDR enabled. That is about the output of the exports. Your display will not work in HDR mode in SceneForge just because that is preventing it from working on Mac, which is a big problem. That's being worked on in the future, but for now, you can rest assured that all effects will be visible in both cameras, and HDR bloom and lighting is fully available in exports as well, which is great. Additionally, there's some other just quality of life things that were fixed. For example, these panel lights had an extra slider here that didn't do anything. That was fixed, that was removed. We also increased the overall performance of the entire editor, as well as shrunk the size of the software down from like 2 or 3 gigabytes to less than 1, which is incredible, with little to no noticeable effect on your scenes, which is great. There's some quirks that are still there, like if you go to the hierarchy, it's kind of shifted over a little bit. That's also will be fixed by the end of the day today. But yeah, so those are the improvements in 0.1.10. Again, I'm working very hard on the Mac version that will have full feature parity with the Windows version, with the one exception of spout output. Spout doesn't work on Mac, so we're probably going to be switching over to NDI instead. And what that'll allow you to do is output virtual camera footage to basically any device anywhere if you are familiar with the NDI system, which is amazing and fantastic. So you can look forward to that in a future release. A couple other things about the encoding system. Now, previously we had a bunch of encoding options, and they worked pretty well, but on some devices there was like compatibility issues. So to fix that, we basically just whittled it down to what are the two things that people actually want, and that is H.264 and H.265 or HEVC. By default, if you don't know what these options mean, just leave it on H.264 and that will generate an MP4. H.265 is kind of like a newer version with higher compression ratios. Some softwares don't accept it. Windows, you have to buy a 99-cent plugin in order to use it. It really depends on what you're doing. Currently, I'm using Windows 11, so because of compatibility issues, we kind of just whittle it down to just these two. For most things, it won't be a problem, though. On Mac, however, this is really interesting. SceneForge will detect the built-in encoders and codecs from macOS that things like ProRes and other stuff like that are just, it gives you wider options for the file size. So long story short, previously, as opposed to including encoders with the software, which led to some bugs, it now only uses stuff that is installed on your system. So if you want to download more from the internet onto Windows, it will pick those up as well. But generally speaking, you're all set with what's built in, which is fantastic. It is also like 2 times as fast, which is crazy. So you can just record, hit export, and the second it's done rendering through all your frames, it will be available on your computer instantly. It's awesome. And it just makes the whole process so much easier and with less waiting and latency. So yeah, that is the overview of these updates. In the future, with the Mac version, there's going to be a lot more coming in terms of real-time virtual production with green screens and things like that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you very much for watching. You can download it right now from the website.